Dr. Kim Day wiped sweat from his forehead as he knelt in the ancient ruins. The twin suns of Kepler 442b burned overhead, making the air shimmer with heat. He had been digging here for 3 months, but today felt different. Today, something was calling to him from deep beneath the strange purple stone. Professor Kim. His assistant Lee Soo came running across the dig site, her boots kicking up clouds of red dust. You need to see what we found in the lower chamber. Day stood up slowly, his knees aching from hours of careful excavation. At 52 he was getting too old for field work, but something about this planet would not let him leave. The ruins were unlike anything he had seen in 20 years of archaeology. The stones seemed to hum with energy, and sometimes he could swear they were warm to the touch. "What is it, Sue?" he asked, following her toward the entrance to the underground chambers. "It's easier to show you than explain," she said, her voice filled with excitement and fear. They climbed down the metal ladder into the cavern below. The walls here were smooth and black, covered in symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Dr. Park Jin, their language expert, was already there with his equipment spread out on folding tables. "Day, you're not going to believe this," Jin said without looking up from his computer screen. "These symbols, they're not from one civilization. I'm seeing parts of 12 different ancient languages, all mixed together." "That's impossible," Day replied. "These civilizations existed millions of years apart." "I know it's impossible, but look at this." Jin pointed to a section of wall where the symbols seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "I've been working on translation for 6 hours. The message is about us." "About humans? Listen to this." Jin read from his tablet. "From the world of blue waters and green lands shall come the children of the first ones. 2 arms, 2 legs, hearts that beat with the rhythm of creation. They shall adapt where others die. They shall build where others destroy. They shall carry the spark of their makers." Sue stepped closer to the wall, her scanner beeping rapidly. "The energy readings are incredible. Whatever power source is running this has been active for millions of years." Day felt a chill run down his spine despite the heat from above. "Keep reading, Gene. There's more. Much more. It talks about a great darkness that will come from beyond the stars. It says the children of the first ones will arrive when hope seems lost. They will remember what others have forgotten." "What others have forgotten?" Sue asked. Gene scrolled through more of his translation. It mentioned something called the Primarchs. "I think they were the first ones mentioned earlier. The text says they created the children as their final gift to the galaxy before they—" He paused, frowning at his screen. "Before they what?" "Before they became something beyond physical existence. They transcended, whatever that means." Day walked closer to the wall, studying the glowing symbols. Up close he could see they were not just carved into the stone. They went deep, as if the rock itself had been transformed into something else. When he reached out to touch one of the symbols, it grew brighter. "Professor, don't!" Sue called out, but it was too late. The moment Day's finger made contact with the symbol, the entire chamber filled with light. The walls began to sing, a low harmonic sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. All 3 humans felt something change inside them, like a door opening in their minds. Images flashed through their consciousness. They saw vast cities floating among the stars. They saw beings of pure light creating worlds with their thoughts. They saw a small blue planet being carefully prepared, seeded with life that would one day grow into something special. Then they saw the darkness. A void that consumed everything it touched, turning matter and energy back into nothingness. They watched ancient civilizations fall like wheat before the scythe, their millions of years of progress erased in moments. The visions ended as suddenly as they began, leaving all 3 humans gasping on the chamber floor. "Did you see that?" Sue whispered. "The blue planet," Gene said. "That was Earth. I'm sure of it." Day slowly got to his feet, his hands still tingling from touching the wall. "We need to contact Earth Command immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about human origins." "You think the message is real?" Sue asked. "That humans are actually the children of these Primarchs?" "I think," Day said, looking around the chamber with new eyes, "that we just found out why we're really here. Not just on this planet but in the universe itself." As if responding to his words, more symbols began to glow along the walls. Gene hurried to his equipment, trying to capture and translate everything. "There's something else," he called out. "It mentions a test that's coming. The darkness is returning, and the children of the first ones will be called upon to prove they are worthy of their heritage." Sue checked her long-range scanner. "I'm picking up massive energy signatures activating all over the planet. Whatever we just triggered, it's waking up systems that have been dormant for millions of years." Day felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. They had come to this world looking for ancient artifacts. Instead, they had found their true purpose as a species. The prophecy was beginning to unfold. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery in the underground chamber. The research station orbiting Kepler 442b now buzzed with activity day and night. Scientists from across human space had arrived to study what the media was calling the God prophecies. Dr. Park Jean sat in his small lab, surrounded by dozens of computer screens showing different translations. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not slept much lately. Every time he thought he understood the ancient texts, they revealed something new and impossible. Captain Choi Han walked into the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You look terrible, Jean." "Thanks," Jean replied, taking the coffee gratefully. "But look at this. I've been working on the crystal fragments we found yesterday. The ones that started glowing when we touched the wall." Han looked at the blue crystal sitting on Jin's desk. It pulsed with soft light, like a slow heartbeat. "What does it do?" "I think it's some kind of memory storage device. But it's not just storing information. It's storing consciousness. The mind of whoever made this is still inside." "That's impossible. A month ago, I would have agreed with you." Jean touched a button on his keyboard. "Listen to this. I recorded it an hour ago." A voice filled the room, ancient and deep, speaking in perfect Korean. "Children of the Primarchs, why do you doubt what your hearts already know?" Han nearly dropped his coffee. "It's speaking our language. Not just Korean. It spoke to Dr. Smith in English, to Dr. Ivanov in Russian, and to Dr. Chen in Mandarin. It knows all human languages, even ones that didn't exist when this thing was made." The crystal pulsed brighter and the voice returned. "Language is but the clothing of thought. Your minds carry the patterns of your creators. We recognize our own work." Han stepped closer to the crystal. "Who are you?" "I am the keeper of memory, last guardian of those you call the first ones. I have waited long for your species to find its way to these sacred places." Dr. Kim Dae entered the lab, followed by Lee Su. Both looked excited and worried at the same time. "Jean, you need to hear this," Dae said. "We just received word from Earth. Similar ruins are being discovered on 12 different worlds. All of them activated at the same time our chamber did. It's like the whole galaxy is waking up," Su added. "The colonies at Alpha Centauri found a crystal exactly like this one. So did the mining station at Wolf 359. The Keeper's voice spoke again. "The network awakens because the time has come. The great darkness stirs beyond the rim of your galaxy. Your trial approaches sooner than we hoped." "What trial?" Han asked. "Look within yourselves, children of light. Do you not feel the change beginning?" Jean frowned and was about to ask what the Keeper meant when he noticed something strange. He could sense the emotions of everyone in the room. Han's confusion, Dae's excitement, Su's fear. It was like having new senses he had never noticed before. "I can feel what you're all feeling," he whispered. Su gasped. "Me too. And there's something else. Look at your hands." They all looked down at their hands. Their skin seemed to glow with the faintest blue light, the same color as the crystal. "What's happening to us?" Dae asked. The Keeper answered, "Your dormant heritage awakens. The Primarchs designed your species with abilities that would only activate when the great need arose. You are beginning to remember what you truly are." Captain Han activated his communicator. "Bridge, this is the captain. Are you experiencing any unusual sensations up there?" Lieutenant Park So's voice came through clearly. "Sir, all human crew members are reporting enhanced awareness and unusual energy readings from their biomonitors. But we all feel better, stronger, more alert. The awakening spreads through proximity to the network crystals," the Keeper explained. "Soon all of your kind will feel the change. You will need these new abilities for what comes next." "And what comes next?" Su asked. The crystal pulsed, and suddenly the lab filled with images projected directly into their minds. They saw the space between galaxies, dark and cold. But something was moving there, something vast and hungry. It consumed entire star systems, turning matter back into void. "The Devourers return," the Keeper said. "They are entropy given form, the opposite of creation itself. They cannot be reasoned with or bargained with. They exist only to unmake everything the Primarchs built." The images showed advanced alien civilizations falling before the Void Devourers. Species that had mastered space and time for millions of years were erased in hours. "Why are you showing us this?" Han asked, his military training making him focus on practical matters. "Because your species was created to stand against them. The other races of the galaxy are too specialized, too rigid in their thinking. When the Devourers come, they will fall as they did before. Only humanity has the adaptability and creative spirit needed to find new solutions. Day felt a weight settling on his chest. You're saying the entire galaxy depends on us? Not the humanity that exists now. The humanity you will become. The prophecies speak of transformation, of ordinary people becoming something greater when faced with impossible odds. Your awakening is just the beginning. Sue checked her scanner and found readings that made no sense. The energy signatures from the planet below are going off the charts. Something big is happening down there. The ancient systems prepare for war, the Keeper said. Soon you must choose. Will you accept your destiny as the children of the Primarchs, or will you let the galaxy fall to darkness? Outside the lab's viewport, the stars seemed to flicker, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. 6 months had passed since the awakening began. Commander Li Du stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, staring at empty space where the Rigel system used to be. Not destroyed space. Not broken planets and dead stars. Just nothing, as if 12 billion years of cosmic history had been erased with an invisible hand. Commander, Lieutenant Park so called from her station, her voice shaking. I'm getting reports from the outer colonies. The Centauri system just went dark. No explosion, no distress signals. It just stopped existing. Du felt the strange new awareness that all humans now carried tingling at the back of his mind. Since the awakening, he could sense things that should have been impossible to know. Right now, that sense was screaming danger. Open a channel to Earth Command, he ordered. Admiral Kim Tae's face appeared on the main screen, looking older than Du had ever seen him. Behind the Admiral, the Emergency Council chamber buzzed with activity as officers ran back and forth with urgent reports. Du, thank God you're safe, the Admiral said. We've lost contact with 47 star systems in the last week. Whatever this thing is, it's moving faster than our fastest ships. Sir, what do we know about it? Not much. The Galactic Council is in complete panic. Species that have been around for millions of years are abandoning their homeworlds and running toward the galaxy's center. The Zephyrians lasted 3 days before their entire empire was wiped out. The Crystalline Collective, with all their advanced technology, held out for 6 hours. Du's enhanced senses picked up something else in the Admiral's voice. Hope mixed with desperation. There's something else, isn't there, sir? Admiral Kim nodded slowly. The Council has been asking about us. About the prophecies. Word has spread about what we found on Kepler 442b. Some of the older species are saying we might be their only chance. Lieutenant Park looked up from her instruments. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy readings approaching from the outer system. Whatever destroyed Rigel is heading our way. Time to arrival? 6 hours at current speed. Du turned to his crew. In the months since the awakening, he had watched them change. They moved faster, thought clearer, and seemed to know what each other was thinking. But this would be their first real test. All hands, this is the commander. We're about to face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than ours. But we have something they don't expect. We have something that makes us different. Dr. Yang Bin, the ship's science officer, spoke up from his station. Commander, I'm reading the approaching objects now. They're not ships in any sense we understand. They seem to be made of nothing. Like holes in space itself. Through the main viewer they could see them coming. Dark shapes that hurt to look at directly, moving through space like sharks through water. Wherever they passed, stars dimmed and planets simply stopped being there. Battle stations, Du commanded. All weapons ready. The first of the Void Devourers reached their position and immediately attacked the small escort ships flanking the Harmony. Du watched in horror as the alien vessels simply vanished on contact, not even leaving debris behind. But something strange happened when the creatures turned toward his ship. The void effect seemed weaker, slower. Where alien ships disappeared instantly, the Harmony held together for precious seconds under the reality-erasing attack. Shields holding. Park so reported with amazement in her voice. I don't understand it, but we're not being erased as fast as the alien ships. Dr. Yang was studying his readings frantically. Sir, it's the awakening. The dormant DNA sequences in all human personnel are fully active now. We're somehow anchoring reality around us, making it harder for these things to unmake us. Du felt it then, the power flowing through every human on the ship. Time seemed to slow down and he could see patterns in the chaos around them. He knew exactly when to order evasive maneuvers, exactly where to target their weapons for maximum effect. All ships, trust your instincts, he broadcast to the human fleet. Don't think too hard about what you're doing. Just act. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships danced through space with impossible grace, their crews moving as if they could see the future. Their weapons, enhanced with technology borrowed from alien allies, found ways to disrupt the void creatures that should not have been possible. More importantly, wherever humans fought, their alien allies could function. The reality-warping effects of the void devourers were dampened in human presence, giving conventional weapons a chance to work. Captain Song Mi, commanding the destroyer Defiance, reported over the communication system. "Commander, these things are retreating. They're actually pulling back." Du could hardly believe it. For the first time in months, the advance of the void had stopped. His communication officer received a priority transmission from the Keeper AI on Kepler 442b. "You begin to understand your true nature, children of the Primarchs. You are not just warriors but anchors of existence itself. Where others bend and break, you hold firm. This is why you were created." As the last of the void devourers disappeared into the darkness between stars, Du realized this was just the beginning. They had won a battle, but somewhere out there, the source of this darkness was still active. "Set course for the Galactic Rim," he ordered. "If we're going to stop this thing, we need to find where it's coming from." Around him, his crew nodded with grim determination. They were no longer just human sailors exploring the stars. They were the children of gods, awakening to their true purpose. The massive fleet gathered at the edge of known space looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. Ships from dozens of different species flew alongside human vessels, all preparing for what might be the final battle against the void devourers. General Park Wu stood in the command center of the flagship Divine Thunder, watching the swirling darkness beyond the galactic rim. Somewhere in that emptiness was the source of the creatures that had been eating entire star systems. "General," Captain Song Mi approached from the communication station. "The alien commanders are asking to speak with you again." Park nodded. He had been expecting this. Ever since the humans had proven they could fight the void devourers, the other species had been treating them differently. No longer as young newcomers to the galaxy, but as something special. Something prophesied. The holographic projector activated, showing the images of fleet commanders from across the galaxy. The ethereal High Counselor floated in its energy form, while the crystalline Admiral's faceted body reflected light in complex patterns. All of them looked to Park with a mixture of hope and desperation. "General Park," the High Counselor spoke in its musical voice, "our scouts report the enemy is massing for a final assault. They have consumed enough matter to create millions of void creatures. Even with your remarkable abilities, can humanity truly stand against such numbers?" Park felt the familiar tingle of his awakened senses. Over the past months, the feeling had grown stronger. He could sense the emotions of everyone around him, could almost see the threads connecting all living things. But more than that, he could feel something vast and ancient stirring in his DNA. "We'll find out soon enough," he replied. "All ships, prepare for final approach to the source." Dr. Cho Jun, the fleet's chief science officer, looked up from his instruments with excitement and terror in his eyes. "General, I'm reading the source now. It's not just a tear in space. It's a doorway to somewhere else. Somewhere that exists outside our reality." Through the main viewer they could see it. A massive wound in the fabric of space itself, bleeding darkness into their universe. Around it, millions of void creatures swirled like a living storm of nothingness. "All human personnel report to battle stations," Park commanded. "This is it." As the fleet moved forward, something extraordinary began to happen. Every human in the armada felt it at the same moment. The dormant parts of their minds that had been slowly awakening over the past months suddenly burst into full activity. Lieutenant Yang Su gasped as new knowledge flooded her consciousness. "Sir, I can see them. Not just the void creatures but what they really are. They're not from another dimension. They're what's left when reality gets torn apart." Park felt it too. The void creatures weren't invaders from outside their universe. They were the universe's own matter and energy, transformed into something hostile by whatever was on the other side of the dimensional rift. "The Primarchs," he whispered, understanding flooding through him. "They didn't just create us to fight. They created us to heal." Dr. Cho's instruments went wild as every human in the fleet began radiating energy. "General, the quantum signatures of all human personnel are changing. You're not just anchoring reality anymore. You're actively repairing it." The battle began as millions of void creatures rushed toward the combined fleet. But this time was different. Where before humans had simply resisted the creatures' reality-erasing effects, now they were reversing them. Void creatures that came too close to human ships began to solidify, transforming back into normal matter and energy. Captain Oh Min, commanding the cruiser Hope's Dawn, reported over the communication channel. "General, these things are becoming real again when we get close enough. They're turning back into asteroids and gas clouds. All ships, close formation around human vessels," Park ordered. "We're going to push straight through to the source." The combined fleet moved forward like a spear of light through an ocean of darkness. Wherever the humans went, reality became stable again. Their alien allies found their weapons working at full efficiency, their shields holding strong. But as they approached the dimensional rift, Park began to understand the true cost of their victory. The energy required to seal something this massive would be enormous. More than enormous, it would require human consciousness itself. "Dr. Cho," he called out, "what would it take to close that rift permanently?" Cho's face went pale as he ran the calculations. "Sir, the quantum resonance required. Someone would have to stay inside the rift while it closes. They would need to maintain the seal from the inside, using their consciousness as an anchor point." "How many someones?" "All of us, sir. Every human in the fleet would need to link their minds together to generate enough psychic energy to keep it closed forever." Park looked around his bridge crew. These were people who had families waiting for them back on Earth. Children who would grow up without parents. Dreams that would never be fulfilled. But he could also feel their determination. Through their awakened connection, he sensed that every human in the fleet had already understood what needed to be done. "This is General Park to all ships," he broadcast. "I won't order anyone to do this. But I'm asking for volunteers to stay behind and seal the rift. Once we're inside, there's no coming back." The response was immediate. Every single human vessel reported ready to proceed. "Sir," Captain Song said quietly, "the Keeper AI is sending a message." The ancient voice filled the command center. "You have become what we always knew you could be, children of the Primarchs. You understand now that true victory sometimes requires the ultimate sacrifice." Park nodded, feeling the weight of destiny on his shoulders. "All ships begin final approach. Let's finish what our creators started." Admiral Lee Hai stood at the center of the massive command ship Primarch's Dawn, watching the dimensional rift grow larger on the main viewer. Around her, volunteers from across human space had gathered for what they all knew would be a one-way mission. The rift was enormous, easily the size of a star system. Through its dark opening, they could see flashes of something that hurt to look at directly. This was where the Void Devourers came from, and this was where they would make their final stand. "Admiral," Commander Kim Jun reported from his station, "all human vessels report ready. We have 15,000 volunteers from Earth, the colonies, and the outer settlements. Everyone knows what we're asking of them." Lee felt the familiar warmth of the awakened consciousness she now shared with every human. Over the past year, their abilities had grown stronger. She could sense the determination and fear of her crews, but also their absolute resolve to see this through. "What about the alien fleets?" she asked. "Holding position at the minimum safe distance. They'll provide covering fire as long as they can, but once we enter the rift." June left the sentence unfinished. They all knew that once inside, the human fleet would be on their own. Dr. Park Yi, now fully transformed by her awakened abilities, studied the readings from her instruments. Her enhanced mind could process information at incredible speeds, seeing patterns that would have been impossible to detect before. "The rift is held open by quantum resonance generators," she explained. "They're located at 12 specific points around the opening. If we can disrupt all 12 simultaneously, the rift will collapse." "And the cost?" Lee asked, though she already knew. "Someone needs to maintain quantum barriers at each point while the collapse happens. The energy feedback will." E paused, searching for gentler words. "They won't survive the process. And to keep it sealed permanently, we'll need volunteers to stay behind and anchor the closure with their consciousness." Captain Oh Min stepped forward from the group of ship commanders. "I'll take point position. My ship has the strongest shields." "No," said Engineer UJ. "The Iron Will has better resonance generators. We should go first." Admiral Lee looked around at the faces of her officers. These weren't soldiers following orders anymore. They were family, connected by bonds deeper than blood, preparing to sacrifice themselves for the galaxy. "We'll do this together," she decided. "All of us who stay will link our minds, create a permanent seal that can never be broken." The battle began as soon as they approached the rift. Millions of void creatures poured out like angry insects from a disturbed nest. But the humans were ready. Their awakened abilities allowed them to move through the chaos with impossible precision. Captain Song Jun, commanding the destroyer Last Light, found himself dancing through attacks that should have been unavoidable. His crew worked as one mind, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. "Admiral, we're through the outer defenses," he reported. Beginning approach to resonance point 7. Around the rift, other human ships were taking their positions. Each knew that once they began disrupting the generators, there would be no retreat. Dr. AE monitored the quantum readings from her position aboard the flagship. All ships in position. Beginning synchronized disruption in 10 seconds. Lee felt the connection with every human in the fleet grow stronger. Through their shared consciousness, she could experience the thoughts and feelings of 15,000 people, all focused on the same goal. 5 seconds, A counted down. 3, 2, 1, now. The 12 human ships fired simultaneously at the resonance generators. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The rift began to collapse, but the feedback created massive waves of destructive energy. One by one, ships reported hull breaches and system failures. But they held their positions, their crews using their awakened abilities to keep the weapons firing even as their vessels came apart around them. "Admiral, this is Captain Song. My ship is breaking up, but the resonance generator is destroyed. The rift is closing on our sector." "Copy that, Captain. All ships, maintain position. We're almost there." Lee felt it when they lost the first ship. Captain Oh-min and his entire crew, their consciousness joining the growing network that would hold the seal in place. Then another. Then 3 more. But the rift was closing. The impossible wound in reality was finally healing. "Admiral," Dr. A called out, "the collapse is accelerating. We need to establish the permanent anchors now, or the rift will tear itself open again." Lee activated the ship-wide communication system. "All remaining crews, this is Admiral Lee. It's time. Link your consciousness with the network. Help us hold this closed forever." She felt them joining her one by one. Minds touching minds, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. Engineers and pilots, scientists and soldiers, all becoming part of a living seal that would guard the galaxy for eternity. "Tell Earth," Captain Song transmitted as his ship disappeared into the collapsing rift. "Tell them the children of gods kept their promise." The rift closed with a flash of light that could be seen across half the galaxy. Where once there had been a wound in space, now there was only Starfield, peaceful and normal. But those who survived knew the truth. Somewhere in the space between dimensions, 15,000 human souls stood eternal watch, making sure the darkness could never return. The galaxy was safe. The children of the Primarchs had fulfilled their destiny at last.